Hey everyone, I'm Melissa from Knitting the Stash, and this is episode 95 in the series. Welcome! It's lovely to see you guys. It is a cold, cold Sunday here. We have a wind chill factor of like, I don't know, negative 12 or 20 or something like that out there until noon, so the dogs have been inside. You might hear them or see them running around in the podcast because, you know, when they don't get out for their walk, they get a little, cuckoo, which is understandable. So we are staying inside today. We might try to get a walk tomorrow afternoon if it warms up, I hope. But it's kind of a nice day to spend in the yarn room in the morning, and it is, as you saw in the last episode, the new and improved yarn room / classroom, so it's cleaned up a little bit, and basically all of this, what that means in social media land is that all this stuff has been shoved this way so that you don't have to look at it anymore. But I've been teaching in here, and my students have been really awesome the first couple weeks of classes. We've had some really awesome conversations, some hard stuff, some challenging stuff, and they've jumped right in, so I've been very happy about that. What do I have for you on the cast today? I have some Estonian knitting. I have some mittens for the Out of My League Cal that we're all working on for this year. I have Spencer coming on as a guest. And yeah, I think that'll probably fill up the half hour that I have in here while everyone is still resting and sleeping and being quiet out in the house. So I usually tell you guys where you can find me, and that is Knitting the Stash just about everywhere, on Ravelry and Instagram, and on YouTube obviously, and on the blog, which is knittingthestash.wordpress.com. That's where I put all the show notes for anything I talk about. You can also email me at knittingthestash@gmail.com, and I love getting your messages here and on Ravelry and all over the place. It's just really nice to communicate with you guys. So welcome to the cast. And if you're new, it's a cast usually about garment design of all kinds, DIY, modifications, all that kind of good stuff. And if you're coming back, it's lovely to see you guys. I hope you're doing okay in the pandemic and keeping yourselves busy and happy-ish and well and all that kind of thing. So I think I'll bring Spencer in first, like I usually do, so that you can see that segment, and then we'll talk about my FO and some Estonian knitting. So we have Spencer back on the cast today, and instead of like coming up with a single topic, we just kind of decided to go as random as possible.
Rando.
It's going to be the random day. So,
I want to start with a question.
And I don't even know what it is. Can you see the terror in my face?
I like one of those questions. Okay, so this is something that someone posed to me on the interwebs. All right, so I got to give you the backstory.
Okay,
the backstory is I made a bunch of stuff. I made all these porter wraps. They're like these friction devices for lowering stuff on ropes.
we all know about this.
I'm sure you use them all the time.
For knitting.
So I made a bunch of those things. Now you can buy them at a store or on the interweb store, or you can make them. So I mean, I guess most people don't make them, but anyway. So I didn't like invent them or anything. I just saw them, like they exist in the world, and I was like, I want one of those. I'm not gonna pay for it. I'm gonna make it. So this person asked me this question.
It wasn't me.
Unless you were posing as a troll or something. She might do that.
We have dogs in the room because it's like wind chill outside and they're chewing on bones, and this is life.
It's indoor dog days.
Okay, so what's the question?
Alright, so the question this person said was, why would you make it if you could just buy it?
Oh, that is good for this.
I just started getting so mad. It was the internet.
That was your first, you were just like,
Yeah, I was like,
well, that's a very different way of looking at the world. I mean, because you and I and a lot of the people watching would be like, of course you'd just make it. Like, you'd make a sweater. You'd make a I always think you're saying porter wrap.
Porter wrap, whatever it is.
Wrap.
Port a wrap.
You'd make your own nitty knotty. You'd make your own mittens. You'd make your own yarn.
But for this dude, this guy said it was kind of like a price thing, where he was, he was questioning the making because it wasn't too expensive to buy one. It was only like $100 or something like that.
But that's the thing. I mean, like, okay, so with sweater knitting, you could go to a big box store and buy, not a wool sweater, but a sweater.
You buy one of those?
No, can't buy one of these. This is homemade.
But it's still a sweater.
It's still a sweater.
It's a porter wrap.
And it's like, I don't know how much sweaters cost. I haven't been out in the world in quite a while now, but...
Probably $50.
20, 30, 50, something like that.
100.
I don't think they cost...
For a nice one.
For a really nice wool sweater, maybe you pay $150.
Yeah.
Okay.
J. Crew or something.
But you could buy the yarn or buy the fiber and spin the yarn and then use the yarn to knit the sweater.
100 hours later,
Yeah, you've had a lot of fun.
You've undone it a few times.
And you've spent that much money, but
One version turned into a pillow.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a philosophy thing. Like it's an actual like the way you look at life. Because there are certain things we would buy.
Cheapskate philosophy?
Okay, here's an example. Here's where it'll help.
With the porter wrap, it was a cheapskate philosophy.
Okay, but here's an example that might help us turn the tables on ourselves.
Oh.
Okay.
Table turning.
So for a while there, I was making my own tofu. You remember
Oh man, that was good stuff.
this? It's delicious.
About this much. Just
yeah.
a little.
You'd make the what would you do? You take
first
the soybeans,
I had to make the
you'd soak
press. I had to make the
right, and
the tofu press.
Meanwhile, I'm like soaking the soybeans, like making
yeah.
the soy milk, culturing or not culturing it, but putting the nigari in there and like turning it into tofu.
All
and then
day.
You made the press.
All
we
day.
press it, and you'd have to.
One
forever.
little piece of tofu in the end.
Okay.
We could have scaled it up though. We could have gone big.
Oh my god. But in that case, it's worth it to me to go spend $2, $3, $4 on a block of tofu. It doesn't taste as good. Granted.
All right.
It does not taste as good. But it was worth it because, you know, like that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Now yogurt, like
Beer.
Beer,
Making
you know.
the beer, man, 5 gallons. You get 5 gallons of beer.
I know. So sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not. It's hard to like. It's up to you have to kind of decide like where you want to spend your time and what you want to do. So I understand the question. In a way.
Yeah. Okay, sure, fine.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. So since we're talking about things that you can make or buy, there is something that there are a bunch of things that Spencer's made for me that one could buy. Like you can buy for spinning, especially when I started getting into spinning. There were all these tools.
Maybe should have bought.
Maybe no, I don't think so. Maybe with the nitty knotties. So there's like lazy Kates and nitty knotties and drum carders and we didn't make cards like actual hand cards.
I don't know what that is.
You will.
Oh, with the spikes?
With the with the paddles.
We
didn't make those.
No, I wanted to make that one
made a drum
with all the nails though. That really swinging thing.
Oh, the
torture device.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
Medieval. She'll put it here on the screen.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now. So anyway, he's made a lot of these things that you could buy, and they've been great. Like the lazy Kate's great. The lazy Kate's great.
How's the nitty knotty?
The nitty knotty. The nitty knotty's been in many different prototypes.
We made 3 nitty knotties so far.
Okay. The first was the Viking knitting. And I'm not even sure why we can't find it right now because
so
the thing is like it's massive and it's like
she burned it.
No, I just can't find it. I don't know where it is.
So I made it
like
and I was like, here's your nitty knotty. All right, you happy?
And I was like so excited.
But it was too big.
Everybody had a nitty knotty but me. And I was borrowing nitty knotties and I was like winding stuff off on ball. You use a nitty knotty to wind things off like spinning wheels you think you use them for everything. You think I'm just in here knitting.
Yeah, you gotta like move it from a skein to a hank to a ball to a cake, you know.
I get my Viking nitty knotty out and I was just like, yes, this is awesome. I start winding my yarn on. And then at the end I was like,
it didn't come off. It didn't have the curvature of the nitty knotty, which is a requirement.
Yeah, so I had to take that yarn off the nitty knotty and wind it into a ball. Anyway, so then Spencer made another nitty knotty.
This was Minnie. She was like, I want a little one. So I went on the internet and I saw someone had this cheapo idea of using plumbing fixtures and glue.
So it has, these are copper, right?
Yeah, whatever.
They're pretty.
So I was like, I'll do that. Oh, my nitty knotty.
Plus it looks a little bit like a...
My nitty knotty's too small, Spencer. It's not
when you pull the skeins off this, they're like, you wind them up and you're like, hey, they're really thick and they're just like this big.
All right, so what I learned at this point...
But...
It's got the curvature.
It's got the curve.
All right, but what I learned is that you can't just go it yourself. What is it? Go it your own?
Yeah, you were just like, how big should it be? And you just kind of made it like this size, you know. Okay, yeah, because it matters. Like a nitty knotty's, you know, generally what, like 2 yards from when you wrap it all the way around. It should, when you stretch it out, it should be 2 yards.
I guess it's a specific kind of tool.
This is more like, you know, 1.5 yards.
All right, fine.
It's lovely. It works. You can actually almost get the yarn off.
We're gonna give this one to the dogs.
Anyway.
All right, so I went on the web. Now,
and you talked to Beth.
Now,
you saw Beth
these nitty knotties got the opposite of progressive. What is that? Regressive? Craptastically?
Come on.
They got more and more cheesy.
They got cheaper.
First one had all kinds of character. It was like wood, you know, all custom joints and stuff.
And
big. And then this one, you know, this one was like, okay, whatever.
So
all right.
Cute.
The good nitty knotty, the one that is really good, is cheesy
and cheap,
made of PVC pipe. So just
and you make your own, and it's like, because nitty knotties cost some money, but this It's 2 yards.
Like 25
it's great.
cents.
It's cheap. You can remove all the parts and stuff.
And I had to look on the internet for the exact length. It was like 14 1/4 inches. Some
of
wonderful soul out there
something.
in y'all's knitting community. She did a whole experiment. I don't know if I told you
Thank you,
that.
wonderful soul.
She had a 15-inch one. She had a
that.
14-inch one. Then she tried she got the 14 1/4 with the internal pipe. As long as you fit them all together, blah blah blah.
This is the winner.
And the way the yarn comes off is you just have to pull these out, but they're a little bit tight.
Right now.
So
I asked him, I was like, did you glue it?
I didn't glue it, but they just need a little bit of like grease on there.
I'm afraid right now. But yeah, so you get the yarn all on here, and then one of the easy ways to get it out is you just pop. Yeah. Anyway, I can't do it, but
and then you can store it flat. Right?
Yeah, you can, and it twists. Oh.
Come on.
Wait, we can do it.
Bring
there
it.
we go. Oh,
bring
it's
it.
a little bit. I don't know what it is. The weather, maybe. Oh, that was bad. There you go. But it does twist and lay kind of flat.
Give me an H.
It's like Sesame Street.
So anyway, it was kind of the story of making something.
Oh, you can get it back to.
Can you buy these things?
PVC ones? Probably.
Or any of them.
Here, you twist that side. I'll hold it. There was once we were building the house, there was a moment when we had to put a huge electrical wire through an LB. Do you remember that?
Oh, barely.
Oh my god. It was a hot day. It was like miserable, and like our fingers were raw, and we were trying to build like. It was
what does that have to do with the knitting, Debbie?
Well, it was just like that. It was like I was like, "I'll hold the pipe, you push the wire," and he's like pushing the wire, and I'm playing the pipe.
If you haven't built a house with your significant other yet, I would highly recommend it.
We were told that we would never make it.
There's some breaking points built in there.
Yeah. Anyway, and if we hug or touch each other, Tink doesn't like it. So if we're on a walk and we like hold hands, she comes right between us. And right now, I just touched Spencer, so you heard her down there, just like jealous. Sweetie dog.
All right, so I've been doing some weaving.
Yes. Okay. So this
lately.
is the third part of our random segment.
Rando number 3.
Make it yourself.
All right, I've been doing some weaving, and don't get excited if you're like a loom weaver, you know.
This is a different kind of weaving, but I thought you guys might think it was cool.
It might be braiding.
Yeah, but it's got some. I don't know what to call it. You guys will know.
All right, so Melissa gave me this ring for Christmas?
Birthday.
Gave me this ring for my birthday, but it didn't have a rope on it. So
and this is an arborist thing.
This is one of those things, and I don't even know the name for this. Some kind of sling or whatever. Rigging sling.
But the idea is if you're in a tree and you need to lower something?
You can put this in the tree. Here, you'll be the tree.
Oh boy.
All right. So you can put this in the tree and you just choke it off.
Oh, I see.
Like this.
Yeah.
And then you kind of turn
turning
it around.
into a different kind of podcast.
And then you and then you run your rope through the ring. All right.
Oh, your other rope, not this rope.
Yeah. This rope is just this is where you rig off of.
I can still use my hands.
So you run the rope through here, and it's nice because it's friction, not friction free, but low friction.
Right.
You know, it's kind of smooth.
This is getting really.
All right.
Okay.
Or you can do that at the base of the tree. You can do it anywhere.
But what are you trying to do with it? You're trying to create. Are you lowering something?
It just gives you a really nice point to run your rope through.
Instead
of just running your rope like around the tree or whatever.
Right. Okay.
It's just a nice thing. But anyway, it was kind of fun because it required you to kind of feed the rope back through itself 3 or 4 times.
Let's see if it'll.
Just that kind of stuff.
You can see it there a little bit.
But when I was doing this, I realized that I really like doing weavy stuff that doesn't involve the loom.
Well, yeah, he's always done like I think you guys might know he's done like microfilm and grasses and paper and.
There's something about being able to just like sit there in the living room and do it.
And in fact, when we got the loom, we own it equally, as I recall. No, you paid more. You paid half. I paid half.
I threw down for the loom.
You sure did because.
So can I sell it?
No.
eBay. Look for it this week.
It's a really cool loom.
Loom for sale.
But when we first got it, his question to me was like, he looked right at me and he was like, so can I put, non-standard materials in it? And I'm just imagining like the gross thing, like grass.
Yeah, like whatever. Seaweed or whatever.
Yeah, just like wet,
dog
muddy,
leashes.
like all kinds of stuff.
All right, so what I did, check this out, you gotta look for this, is I found a sailing supply shop.
For this rope?
No, for the rings.
Oh.
Because these rings are a little on the spendy side.
Because there are a lot of people watching this podcast who might need to tie something.
Anyway, I bought like 100 of these rings, and I bought like 1,000 feet of this rope from a sailing
So you're gonna make a bunch of them.
something on eBay. So I'm gonna make a bunch of them.
Tell your friends, your
Different
loved ones.
kinds. Working up different designs and stuff.
So is there a thing about the number of
3.
stitch?
The
It's usually
interwebs
just went
tells
for
you 3.
And that's just for...
I think you only need 1. And the
and it's
second
just to
one's
create
back up
these
and the
pockets that you can then wrap around the... Nice. No, I mean, I'm curious. Like, are there other? Because he's into knots and
There's
he's
no
got this
knots.
whole-
It's just all
Well, I know,
friction,
but-
I guess.
So this is. Are there other versions of this, or is this it?
Yeah. You're gonna have a lot of versions in your house real soon.
Oh my gosh.
Really good,
Yeah.
crazy.
So in case you guys wonder about us, what we do with our free time when there's like wind chill outside and a pandemic going on, we keep ourselves nice and busy,
Tie things in knots.
including each other.
So what have you been knitting?
I've been knitting some mittens and sweaters and blankets, hexagons.
That's almost done, right?
Oh man, I have 7 left.
Oh.
7 left.
7 hours?
7 hexagons.
3 hours.
7 hexagons. It takes me like 2 evenings to do one.
Whoa! That blanket is labor intensive.
Yeah, so like
you can
another.
just buy one at the store.
Ah, good one. I think that might be the title of the podcast.
Buy it at the store.
Buy it at the store? Question mark.
It's a different perspective or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have to sew it all together.
Border sewing.
Yeah, you want some help with that?
Yes.
Sewing machine?
No.
Just run that thing through with the.
You gotta watch him. That's the thing. You just gotta watch him all the time with all his stuff. Yeah. You're working on some mitten liners.
Yeah, I am. I've gotten really far. I have the yarn sitting there next to the mittens.
Waiting for me to pick up the stitches so that you can start knitting.
I was gonna pick them up.
Oh.
Let me ask you a question about knitting. All right, this is my knitting question.
Okay.
When you're picking up stitches, do you feel like you really have to do it in a specific place, or can you just kind of grab what's next? Because when I've picked up stitches, I just kind of grab what's
We're all
next.
really curious to
You
know
know,
how
like,
you picked up stitches.
like sometimes you go like here, and sometimes you just grab this thing. Like it doesn't have to be
How's that worked out for you?
success.
Yeah.
Do you grab a specific?
Yes.
Well, what do you grab?
Very specific. But
Where do you
I
grab?
would say
Where do you grab on?
I'm a big proponent of whatever works for you. So if you're happy with the way it's working
Just grab on.
and you're not too worried about
Yeah.
it and you're, whatever, then do it
I
your own
find
way.
that if you just grab the yarn, it kind of stretches a little bit.
But you will find that there are better ways to do things than others, probably.
Better.
Mm.
All right. So you have a specific. But are you going to share the secret? Where do you grab?
Depends on where you're going. So if you're doing mattress stitch, you're going in between the stitches, you're looking for the little ladder.
Mattress stitch.
Yeah, which is that invisible stitch.
Well, no,
which
we're just
joins
picking
together.
up stitches.
I know, I'm just saying.
Okay.
But if you're picking
oh,
up
I
stitches...
see, with the mattress.
Yeah. But if you're picking up stitches, usually you want to go under the 2 legs.
And grab the 2 legs, and you go 1 to 1. You
If
pick
you
up
go-
every freaking stitch.
No, you go 1 to 1 if you're going like across like the back of a neck.
Oh.
But if you're going up, you would pick up every 2 out of 3 or 3
Oh,
out of
because
4.
if you're going up, you don't want to grab every one because then it'll squish.
It'll splay it out.
It'll spread.
Yep. And
So
if you
with this
don't grab
mitten-
enough, it'll pull it in.
With the mitten, should I just grab 1 to 1?
With the mitten, you grab 1 to 1
because we're going the same way.
And then because you're using a thinner yarn, you're going to reduce the number of stitches that you pick up on the next round, and then just knit. So-
Why am I reducing?
Because it's better to pick up and then have a row that's knit in that yarn and then reduce it
and
because
then
it'll
reduce.
look
But why
less
would
stretchy.
we reduce it all?
Because you don't want the mittens to be the same size.
Oh,
they
you
won't
want a
fit
small
inside
mitten.
the other one.
Mini mitten on the inside.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna go finish that up while you guys are doing the rest
It
of
was
this
nice
podcast.
to have me on the
Yeah.
cast.
Melissa, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. It was
Appreciate
nice to be here.
Yeah, we'll give you a
I
free
appreciate
Amazon coupon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little gift giveaway thing. I like it.
And you guys, take care out there.
Well, it's always lovely to be a guest on Spencer's podcast, so it's good to see him, and it's kind of him to come on here and chatter about a bunch of different things, as we usually do. It was definitely a little more random today, and I think that's kind of fun. We were just trying to entertain ourselves, and luckily you guys seem to appreciate our entertainment, so there you go. And by the way, sometimes he was asking about my sweater. This is the Hikari, and I love this. This is the sweater that I modified before. It is out of like linen and wool, and it has this really great triangle in the back, and this is a Yamagara design, and I love her stuff. So this one's been perfect kind of layer for the cold that we're having right now. I'm actually wearing it underneath my other sweaters, so it's kind of like triple layering of wool. It's kind of crazy that way. Okay, FO, I have the first project from the Out of My League cowl. And you guys might remember from last episode, I introduced this cowl for the year, and the idea was to go back to some of those patterns that we had trouble with when we first started knitting or sewing or crocheting or making or spinning or whatever it is that you were doing. So I guess I really should call it a mal, but I just think mal just kind of sounds, ugh. So it's a make along. You can do make along with us, whatever you want. I'm working on knitting some projects that I had trouble with back in the day when I first started knitting. So this is the Sweet Nectar Mitts set from Tanis Fiber Arts. And I tried these back in, I looked at my Ravelry page, I think it was back in 2014. And I started knitting in 2012. So in 2014, I was like very new to color work, and I had tried these mitts and they were just so tight. And the color work in the round on this tiny circumference just seemed so difficult. And I cast them on recently, and I think I finished them in like 4 or 5 days. And so it's amazing what a difference some time can make. And I will say, on one of the earlier casts, I was saying how I don't usually do mittens because, you know, I just don't see, like, a lot of the mittens I've made have been kind of, they haven't been warm enough. Well, now I know why. You need to make this kind of mitten. So this is a, like, almost a triple layer mitten because the color work gives you 2 layers. So you have all the floats in there, keeping it nice and warm. And then these mittens also have a liner. Yay! So I'm going to pull out this liner so you can see it. And I knit these up in a couple different kinds of yarn, actually. I had some of the Tanis Fiber Arts from a kind of mixed bag that I'd gotten from them a long time ago. And so that's what the blue is. This is their, I think it's their yellow label. It's their kind of basic DK superwash yarn. And then I used my Shorn 1. I had a little ball left over of Shorn 1, which is the yarn that I make up every year. That time it was from Christy Pyatt's sheep, which were Cormo mixed with some Corriedale, so that's what the white is. And this liner is made out of the Tanis Fiber Arts cashmere. I think it's their purple label cashmere, which I just happened to have a skein of. How does that happen from a pattern from 2014? I don't know, but I looked in my stash and I was like, I had it. And so the nice thing about that is that I knew it would work in terms of gauge and all that kind of important stuff. And you can see that it is a liner that's picked up, as Spencer was asking about mittens, picked up around the edge there. You reduce some stitches and then you just knit on until you're done. One of the tricks with these liners is that you do want to finish the thumb before you close the top of the hand, because that way you can get in there and finish off all of the ends and all the things that you need to do in there. The only thing about this liner that bugs me is that since it was knit in this direction, it's got a little bit of a pearly lump on the inside of the, not a pearly lump, it's got a little bit of a finishing lump on the inside of that thumb. I'm not sure you can see it there, but it just bugs me against my thumb. I gotta get used to it. I think I will get used to it. But I could imagine finishing the thumb kind of inside out so that it was very smooth on this side, which is the side your finger is going to be rubbing on, and then it was nubbly on the inside. That's really one of the only things I would change. The nice thing about not tacking down your lining is that you can pull it out to dry it if you're out in the snow and it's wet, or you washing them. When I wash them, I just let them dry like this, and they've dried so much faster that way. And they don't really need to be tacked down because, as you can see, they just really, I can pull my mitten on and off and they just stay right inside there. It's pretty easy to tuck it in. I actually tend to tuck the thumb inside first. So kind of turn the thumb inside out so that it's already sitting in there, and then shove the lining in. And then you can kind of wiggle your thumb into the thumb thing and wiggle your hand right into the hand thing, and there you go. All linered up and ready to roll. I think these are going to be super warm. I usually wear a double mitten. I've had these kind of like knitted / fleece lined mittens that my mom gave me maybe 20 years ago, and I've kind of kept them alive. Spencer's been sewing them and keeping them alive. But I think these are going to be equally as warm. And I love the fact that you can see the hummingbird's beak kind of goes over on each side. It's just a really beautiful pattern. Very, this time around it was easy to knit. I'm not gonna say it's a simple pattern because I had trouble with it in 2014. But for the first knit of my Out of My League cowl for this year, I'm so excited about these. Can you tell? I really love them. They're soft and warm and squishy. And after I said I didn't really knit mitts on the last episode, so many of you sent me wonderful patterns, and I did a test knit for Albina, some new mittens that she's working on. And my friends, my spinning and knitting friends were like, check out this pattern, check out this one. So my friend Beth was actually knitting some colorwork mittens at the same time, and she fell in love with these, with the pattern. And so I gifted her, I had some extra Tanis Fiber Arts yarn in I think a yellow and a brown. So I gifted her that, and I gifted her the leftover liner that I had. I had about half a skein left. So really with a couple skeins of yarn, you could probably make 2 pairs of these, which would be pretty cool. You'd need a full skein for the dark color, full skein for the background color, and a full skein for the liner, and you could make 2 pairs of mittens very easily. And that would be really cool. Keep one and give one to a friend, which is kind of what I did. So that's my FO for the week. I've been swatching all over the place, swatching with Brooklyn Tweed's Loft for another one of these Out of My League cowl projects, which is the Flight Sweater by Sarah Pope. And I ended up having to go down to a size 2 needle with the Brooklyn Tweed Loft to get the gauge for that one. So I think that'll be cast on soonish. But I've been working on a beautiful colorwork sweater called the Samantha Jumper for the last week or so, and hopefully on the next cast I'll have that one to show you. I'm doing lots of modifications to that pattern, and it should be fun to kind of go through them with you. If you're interested in getting into the Out of My League cowl, we have a thread over on the Ravelry group, and we're basically just picking up things and projects that we once thought were too hard for us, or that were out of our league, whether it's knitting, crochet, sewing, making of any kind, and we're just jumping back into them to see how much we've learned and whether or not we've acquired the skills to be able to do it at this point. So it's a fun cowl. We got a lot of people over in the Ravelry group joining in, and I hope you'll join us as well. So in the last segment today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some Estonian knitting research that I've been doing just for fun. You guys know that I'm interested in lots of different knitting traditions, and especially in translations of patterns. I love knitting translations and knitting languages and all the differences between them, and the similarities too, where sometimes if you know some basic garment construction, you can jump in and do a pattern in another language. I was doing that, the sweater from the Norwegian pattern, and anyway, there's just some really fun stuff out there. And I happened to find a couple of books. They're old stitch dictionaries from Estonia. And I think, as far as I can tell, they're actually 2 different books. Like one is maybe the updated version of the other. And I'm not sure I'm going to try to pronounce this. Silmas Kudamin by Claire Halleck. And this is the older version. I think this is the original. And this is maybe the updated version from the 70s. This one's from the 50s. And one of the things that caught my eye about these books was the fact that they include a lot of photographs of the different stitches. So for example, and these are some pretty interesting stitches. There's a lot of slip stitching, there's a lot of noops, there's a lot of, if you're into Estonian knitting, you probably know about Estonian lace traditions. So that's a whole, and stockings and all kinds of other good stuff. And then in the back of the book, I'm trying to be gentle with them because they are so fragile, there are tons of charts. So my thinking was, even though the stitches are characterized by these really long descriptions in Estonian, which I think you'd have to be fluent to actually be able to read. That's what I learned from watching a video, because they're so descriptive. But even so, you can look at the pictures of the swatches, and then you can look at the charts. And I think of it as kind of like learning a language. So at the beginning, the first couple of charts are for basic stockinette stitch and garter stitch, things like that. So these very beginning ones here. And I think once you get a sense of how the charts work and what the symbols mean by looking at the photos and by looking at the the key that we do have over here and doing a little basic translation, I think I might be able to replicate some of these in swatches and have some fun with them, which would be really cool. So that got me really thinking about Estonian, and I found a website that does translate between Estonian knitting terms and English, which is a really super useful website, and it is by Knitting Fool, I believe, and Knitting Fool does a bunch of different languages, but Estonian is one of them, and I'll put that link over in the show notes. And then I remembered that I had this Estonian lace book, so, and this is by Nancy Bush, and I acquired this before I ever got the Stitch dictionaries. But it does have some background, especially on the lace knitting, but on some of the other traditions, and then it's full of patterns. Obviously, this book is much more pattern focused than some of the other ones. But I figured between this, it does have a DVD in the back, which I have not yet watched. I'm kind of looking forward to it. And yes, we do have a DVD player. So between that, and I found an interweave video that you can download on creative Estonian knitting by a woman whose parents were from Estonia, and she's done a lot of Estonian knitting. So she goes through a lot of the basic stitches, and as far as I've watched so far, she's talking about the different noops, and she does a lot of different things with swatches so that you can see how the stitches stack and look. So yeah, I'm really kind of interested in this, and as you can imagine, because I'm interested in knitting languages, this one seems like a particularly interesting challenge because the stitches are so descriptive, and then what you've got to work with are the photos and the key and the charts at the end of the book. So I'll keep you posted on that. I might do a couple of swatches and kind of play around with some things, but I would love to know, for those of you who have ever traveled to Estonia or speak Estonian or know anything more about these Clara Halleck books, I would love to know anything that you know. If you want to share over in the Ravelry group, I'll set up a thread for Estonian knitting. And if anybody else has gone to travel there or done some reading on the region or knows more about the history of the knitting, I'd love to know. I know there is a knitting in Estonian knitting books 1 and 2 out there that are kind of harder to find and more expensive. On the actual traditions. The first one's on the knitting traditions in general, and then the second one is on stockings and socks, I believe. So I would just love to know if anybody has those books, what you think of them, if you think they're worth the investment, all that kind of stuff is really, I'm kind of nerding out here in terms of learning something new about a knitting tradition. So I'd love to know what you guys know about it. And I think that's probably it for today. So it's lovely to see you guys. I've got to go do some family stuff and hang out and enjoy the kind of quiet weekend of it all, indoors with the dogs and the kid and just kind of chilling out. So I hope you guys are all well and have something to look forward to this weekend. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Take good care.